what is Figma and what is FigJam?
Yeah, so Figma is a web-based design platform, and it helps teams build products together from beginning to end. And so what we're really trying to do is make sure design is more accessible to everyone, and building it on the web helps that happen, right? Because it's easier to get to on any device, whether it's kind of a entry-level Chromebook or a high-end MacBook, it doesn't matter. You can just get right in there and start making things. And so we do have two products now. And so Figma is a tool that lets people design all kinds of applications, websites, and lets them prototype them as well without writing any lines of code at all. So they can just go ahead in there and start designing the user flows, everything that they would need to kind of spell out what it should really feel like to use whatever you're designing. And FigJam is a whiteboarding product. So it's more really for anyone to just go in there and brainstorm things together with sticky notes and all kinds of stuff like that.
So we'll dig in. I want to dig into FigJam here in a little bit. But for Figma, I read one quote from Dylan, y'all's CEO, about Figma getting early on, kind of one of the focuses was Chromebooks and building this for the web, obviously. And where was the quote? It was in this Forbes article talking about, we were testing it on Chromebooks in the early days and all of that. We love hearing that sort of stuff, obviously. We've been telling everybody about Chromebooks for a really long time, and any sort of kind of cloud-based collaborative software is obviously right up our alley. So in Figma, folks can do prototyping, right? So they're not only just working on kind of flat design. Like, this isn't just for, I'm sure people could, if they wanted to, build or design a flyer, right, or a birthday card or whatever. But within the web-based software, you're actually able to kind of link through different. This click goes here, and you can actually like prototype an app or a website. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like you said, you can definitely use it for graphic design type use cases if you're building out, a brand for something and a bunch of collateral. But primarily, our bread and butter is in designing applications. So, companies like Google and Uber, New York Times, Microsoft, whoever, are using it as their main way to kind of illustrate and prototype out their core experiences that customers use for their products.
I can't remember who it was. It might have been Andy Russell and I who were talking about Screencast and some of the other products that Google was working on, but we were talking about the Figma partnership with Google. And he said something, and I might be misquoting him. I'd have to go back and look, or maybe that Google and the design team at Google are doing all of their wireframes and prototyping in Figma. Do you know of this?
Yeah. I mean, so it is a pretty large team. Obviously, there's tons of designers at Google. And while I can't speak to every individual team, there's a huge user base there of people designing their core experiences in Figma every day. So over the past couple of years, it's definitely become the predominant tool for not just kind of wireframing, but really, prototyping out and figuring out what the core experiences should really feel like. And a big reason for that is that it's one of the only really collaborative tools out there for this, meaning it's a lot like Google Docs, the way that you could just have two people on your team or more jumping into a file together and creating things in real time.
Yeah, in that you can add like annotations, right? You can add even like voice memos within there to be like, hey, what about this? Have you thought about this? It's like, it's collaborative, but like even a whole nother level of collaborative, which I love.
Yeah, there's both like when you're in a jam session at the same time when you're making something, but also with things like comments and app mentioning folks, you're right. Like you could also be collaborating when you're not even at the same place in the same time. You could just be looking at files. And one of the cool things is if you are a designer at Google, for example, it used to be pretty tricky to like find a file from a teammate and like just start riffing on it or discover what kind of work is happening in your company. But because Figma has everything in one platform, you can just search for like, I want to know every project that's working on onboarding at the company. And you can actually discover and find all these great files that you can just directly kind of, riff on or collaborate with, which, when you're working more in the open in that way, it just lets you do a lot better work. You're making sure you're not, reinventing the wheel on new patterns if someone else at the company has been doing the same thing.